In the dead of night, a shrouded figure lurks in the shadows. That's how it begins. Not a tale spun from the fabric of imagination, but a bone-chilling reality that unfolded in the quiet suburban life of our protagonist. Our story takes us to a quaint home nestled comfortably amidst a row of identical houses where the ordinary took a sinister turn. Every night, like the faithful rising of the moon, a figure would appear in the backyard. Draped in an enigmatic shroud, it would stand still, merely a darker spot against the inky backdrop of the night. It was as if the figure was a part of the night itself, an embodiment of the darkness that fell upon the world when the sun set. At first, it was easy to dismiss it as a trick of light, a silhouette cast by some mundane object. But then, the figure started to move. It would pace the length of the backyard as if patrolling an unseen boundary. Its movements were slow, deliberate, never once straying from its path. It was then the dread began to settle in the pit of our protagonist's stomach, a fear that was as irrational as it was real. Every night, the figure seemed to be watching the house, its gaze never wavering from the windows. It was a silent sentinel, a watcher in the night. The paranoia began to creep in, insidious and persistent. Was it merely a harmless observer or something far more sinister? The fear of the unknown loomed large, casting a dark shadow over the once peaceful home. The protagonist, once dismissive of the figure, now found themselves consumed by it. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind, every shadow felt like a premonition of something terrible. The figure became an omnipresent dread, a silent terror that haunted the protagonist's every waking moment and invaded their dreams. As the nights passed, the figure remained a constant, an unwelcome guest in the quiet, suburban life. The protagonist's fear grew, festering into a full-blown paranoia, a terror that gnawed at their sanity. The shrouded figure was no longer just a nightly apparition. It was a harbinger of a nightmare that was yet to unfold. Soon the figure would not just be a nocturnal visitor. The shrouded figure was no longer outside but had made its way within the confines of the house. Imagine the cold dread that seeps into your bones when you realize that the haunting figure you've been trying to ignore has not just been lurking outside, but has trespassed into your sanctuary. The protagonist, whose heart was already beating like a war drum, felt a new surge of terror. The figure was inside. It was no longer a distant threat, but an immediate danger. The once safe and familiar surroundings of the home now felt distorted, like an eerie reflection in a funhouse mirror. The house, once filled with the comforting hum of life, grew eerily quiet. But soon the silence was punctuated by inexplicable noises, a soft whispering that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere, a sudden clatter in the kitchen, the creaking of floorboards under unseen weight. Every sound became a chilling symphony of fear, echoing through the hollow corridors of the house. Inanimate objects took on a life of their own. A vase moved inches from its original place. A chair rocked back and forth, untouched. The protagonist's favorite book toppled from the shelf, its pages fluttering open as if an unseen hand was leafing through it. Each incident was a chilling reminder of the figure's presence, an unseen puppeteer pulling the strings. The figure was not just a presence, but a haunting reminder of terror. It was always there, lurking in the shadowy corners of the room, hiding in the reflection of mirrors, or standing at the end of a long hallway. The protagonist could feel its chilling gaze, a constant pressure that turned the once cozy home into a chilling labyrinth of fear. But the most terrifying part was not just its presence, but the realization that the figure was not a mere trespasser. It was not there by accident, nor was it there to instill fear. It was there with an intent, a purpose. It was there for something or someone. The figure was not a mere trespasser, it had a purpose. The figure was not a ghost of the past, but a harbinger of a terrifying future. The protagonist, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, summoned the courage to confront the enigmatic figure. It was a decision teetering on the edge of bravery and foolishness. As the protagonist approached, the figure, shrouded in darkness, began to reveal its true form. It wasn't a ghost, nor a creature of folklore, but a messenger from the future, bearing a prophecy of dread. With a voice that echoed through the still night, the figure spoke of a future marred by shadows. A future where the protagonist's world would be turned upside down, where happiness would be a distant memory, replaced by a suffocating darkness. The figure did not speak in riddles or metaphors. The prophecy was clear as day, as real as the fear that now gripped the protagonist's heart. The figure painted a picture of a world where the sun wouldn't rise, a place where laughter would be silenced, and love would be lost. It was a prophecy that sent chills down the spine of the protagonist, who stood frozen in fear, their heart pounding in their chest. The figure was not there to harm but to warn, to prepare the protagonist for the horrifying ordeal that awaited them. The figure was not a phantom of the past, but a harbinger of a terrifying future. It was a future that the protagonist could not escape, a destiny they could not change. In this chilling revelation, the protagonist was faced with a horrifying prophecy of their future. A future that seemed too terrifying to be true, yet too real to be a dream. It was a future that would test their courage, their resilience, and their will to survive. As quickly as the figure had appeared, it vanished, leaving behind a protagonist grappling with the horrifying prophecy. The figure had delivered its message. The terror was just beginning. Living with the knowledge of a doomed future is a horror in itself. It's a chilling, cold reality that our protagonist now finds themselves embroiled in. The encounter with the figure, a specter that had materialized from the shadows, had left a lasting imprint, not on the walls or the floors, but on the protagonist's mind. A scar seared into their psyche, a constant reminder of the terror they had witnessed. The aftermath of this encounter was not filled with physical destruction or tangible wreckage. Instead, it was an internal devastation, a psychological catastrophe. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, every flicker of the lights became a ghostly echo of the past. The protagonist's world was now a haunted house, filled not with physical specters, but with the spectral remnants of fear and paranoia. Sleep became a distant memory, a luxury that the protagonist could no longer afford. The shadows danced with the figure's presence. The silence screamed its name. Time became an adversary, each tick of the clock a countdown to an inevitable, terrifying future. The protagonist was now a prisoner in their own home, the walls closing in, the fear gnawing away at their sanity. Their life had been irrevocably changed by the figure's visitation. It was as if they were living in a perpetual state of nightmare, a waking horror that refused to end. They were haunted not by the figure itself, but by the knowledge of what it represented. The unknown, the unpredictable, the uncontrollable. The figure was a manifestation of their greatest fears, a symbol of the dread that now consumed their every waking moment. The figure may have disappeared, but the horror it brought remained, a chilling reminder of the unknown that lurks in every shadow. The protagonist was left in a world forever altered, their life now a chilling tale of the unseen, the unheard, the unspoken. The figure may have vanished, but its legacy of fear, uncertainty, and dread, that was the true horror. The figure may have disappeared, but the horror it brought remained, a chilling reminder of the unknown that lurks in every shadow.